Welcome to Ladies Talking Leafs. I'm Chris.
And I'm Sil.
We're laughing, but we're laughing because we kind of had a mix-up here before, but we're good. Anyways, I'll just start by saying how last week, I don't know, I can't believe it's already over, basically. The playoffs are done for us. We thought after game 3, we left you just before game 3, and we thought that, because they had a great game 2, the Leafs did, and we just thought that, like for game 3 that we'd be fine, obviously, but now it's all over, and we're at the familiar place. I'm at my cottage here, enjoying and just reflecting on the lake, as I always do after another lost season with the Leafs. Yeah, and I don't know, it just seems after waiting this long, I guess, to get hockey back, and then just to have it done and over with after 5 games. Just seems kind of a bit down, but we still have lots to talk about, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'd have to agree, but I guess it's a fitting end to a season that kind of was a roller coaster from the start. So I don't know why we expected that anything should resolve itself in any other way, and it's very apparent that there's still lots of work to do, and basically what we're going to do for this episode is we're just going to kind of go over and deconstruct the last 3 games as we saw it versus the Columbus Blue Jackets from game 3 to game 5. We're going to touch a little bit on the draft lottery that unfortunately we were a part of. And then we're going to have another episode coming for you next week where we're going to focus on the team as a whole and our review of the season and our thoughts on the current state and management decisions going forward. As much as it is painful, let's get to the heart of this episode.
Okay, so let's start with the disappointment of game 3. I mean, I thought game 2 was a great game for our Leafs, and I just thought from that they would just build off of that, go into game 3. They had the 3-goal lead, the dreaded 3-goal lead, and ultimately they lost an OT 4-3.
And I think
I just can't understand why. I just can't understand why this group can't hold on to a lead by now.
I know it's, and I think that's the kicker. And I think you were talking about. I mean, we have a quote here of Keith's comments where he said post game that we had no purpose or plan, and I think that's what it lends to is that this is that game, even though they looked great at times and scored those goals, they were doing some of their old bad habits, which lent them to not being able to hold the lead. I think that's what Keith was getting at.
Yeah, I don't know. I was like, I just didn't, because like you said, they had a good period and a half, into the middle of the second period. But as soon as Dubois got the first goal, because he had the hat trick that night, he got the first goal.
That's also killer.
Yeah. And
one guy.
Yeah. We mentioned him back when we were previewing the series, we mentioned him. And once he got that goal, it's almost like they freeze up, it's just it's like they feel the energy from the fans too, even though we're not there. They just freeze up. I don't know. It's like they think, okay, yeah, the second one's coming soon. They just back off. They don't keep playing the same way. The way they need.
They can't.
To play.
They couldn't sustain the pressure, and I don't know. Maybe they tried to see. This is the thing. Is I think that if we try to be more defensive, like to kind of hang on to a lead. That never works for us. Like to go into that, more defensive shell where we're protecting the lead. I think we always have to be on the offense, and never let up that way. Like you have to keep doing what you were doing. Like don't take your foot off the gas on that just because you're up 3-0.
Yeah, and
try to hang on to it.
Yeah, and that's basically been the problem every single year almost. With the last, I mean, I don't count the one was a bonus versus Washington to actually make the playoffs that year, but the two against Boston, like it's just like you think, like we went to the game.
No, and if you think about how we lost to Boston, it was always like that. It's like Boston pretty much had to play the last 5 minutes of any of those games, and that's it. We were done for.
Right.
So I don't know. Riley did get called out a little bit for sort of just kind of skating around too much.
Yes. Yeah.
There was also some key errors by, people pinching, and they got called out for that. But it was also the forwards, like Kapanen, for example, on that one.
Him I'm done with. We'll deal with that in our next week.
Yeah, but
I'm done with him. I mean, we talked about him not on the podcast, but
there are some key offensive players that we have, which we don't need to necessarily get into the details of that don't want to pick up and do their job so that we can continue to sustain proper team defense. They're the ones that there's certain people that when we're up like that think that their job is done on the defensive side, and they just kind of, their head doesn't stay in the game, and they're not filling in where they need to fill in, because that's the key. I mean, regardless of what kind of ace defenseman you have, you can't you can never, ever leave it all on them. Your forwards have to know what they're doing. And I do think that these people have been told, and they're not doing their job or not sustaining that level when they need to sustain it. Because, it's not all on the defense, and it's not all on Freddie either.
Yeah, so that was that was a lost opportunity right there, like to take control of the series, and so then we basically
go ahead.
No, we lose in OT, right?
Yeah,
and of course it was Dubois that got the third goal, right?
Yeah.
Yes. That's how he got the
Thank
OT
God
goal.
They didn't throw any hats on there for him. I'm so glad they didn't do that. Like they did in Edmonton for McDavid. But anyways,
I was gonna, it was okay. So it was there. Somebody threw something. I know that for it was McDavid. That's right. Like I don't even know if they managed to get on the ice there, but whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, there was just some lady throwing some hats out there. But anyway, I guess moving on. So obviously that was crushing. So moving on to game 4. So I think all of Leafs Nation, I know we were kind of a little bit on pins and needles for this one because we didn't know what the heck we were going to get. Anyway, so now we're going into game 4, which is an elimination game. So what do we expect from the Leafs going into that situation?
Personally, I didn't expect much. I was like, I thought they were done. Right?
Yeah, no, I did too. And I think most Leafs Nation was like on pins and needles for that whole game. Like just thinking that's
they looked like they didn't have any energy either. They just looked like that they
especially in the
themselves.
First period.
Yeah, there was no urgency, nothing. I didn't see nothing in that game to say that they wanted to win that game. And like
there was some, I think starting in period 2, partway through, they seemed to kind of start to get their shit together, for lack of a better word. But yeah, like as it was becoming like crunch time, there was, Keefe started to make some moves that in this game seemed to make a difference. Namely, this is where he kind of put together Austin, JT, and Marner.
Yeah.
Towards the end of the game, and it kind of paid off for them.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think he played them a little bit in game 2 as well.
He did, but
right?
very
game,
short.
Or game, yeah, like it was every other shift here and there kind of thing, which I was, like, that part, it was fine, but you could see the chemistry between the three. I mean, obviously they're, whatever, $30 million of our salary cap,
there should be chemistry there.
So there should be chemistry there, urgency there. They're the three leaders, right? 2 of them have assistant captain and and our captain. But yeah, no, it definitely, like, they got that one goal. It was the exact reverse of game 3.
Yeah.
We got the one goal, be it much later in the game, like with less than 5 minutes. And it just snowballed from there. And I was in disbelief, really. I was sitting there and I was like, how is this happening to us? Normally, does not happen to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Like, and it's always... I
have to say that with the goalie pulled, they are actually one of the most dangerous teams with regards to that. They all season long, too. They capitalize on that situation. They are so good at that. I just wish that we could have that urgency all the time, because they really crashed the net during that sequence, that miracle sequence, that by the time when they actually got the second one, I actually was getting a little pissed off, because I was like, why are they doing this?
Yes.
Why are they doing this if they're not going to finish it, is what I was thinking. I kind of got a little bit PO'd that if they don't finish this off, that was just such a waste.
Right.
And it ended up that this whole game, I kind of felt that way after the game too, that, if they can really pull this off, they better make good on the next game, right?
Yeah, like they were,
but
like, and you could just see like even like after, like Keefe said at the end of the game, there was just so much, the most joy that he saw from those guys in his time as coach, which is a short time, obviously. But obviously us fans, we've seen everything that's gone against this team and other previous teams too, that it's always, if it's something is the worst possible scenario that's going to happen, it's going to happen to us, sort of thing, right? We could have a 2-goal lead, a 3-goal lead, 10-goal lead. It will end up losing somehow when it comes to a key game. But in this case, it was the reverse, and he saw the joy, and I just thought, wow, like maybe this is the turning point. I was thinking maybe this is something, a special team here, if they finally are getting it together.
Well, that would have been a fantastic story. And I mean, thinking about, can they parlay this into, pull that momentum into the next game and parlay this into a win? Like, could they have really learned something in that moment?
Right. Yeah.
I guess it's still possible that when they reflect on this, the bigger picture, that moment still will be a key moment that they can
like some people
in on, right?
Yeah, so, some people are saying, like, forget about that game now. Like, that game, what happened in that game for? I don't think so.
I don't think so. I think that's the game that you need to turn to and realize that if I were the Leaf management, I would be sending that last 5 minutes to them to watch over and over and over all summer long. Like, honestly, because that shows that they actually can do it.
Yes.
If they sustain the effort. Like, and there were other people that in that scrum that actually contributed that weren't showing a lot during this series. Okay, so Willie contributed there. Hyman scored, which was huge. And he was, he
scored the tying goal.
He was kind of a non-factor in this series, like not the guy that we're used to really seeing. So, it's something that I was hoping they would capitalize on it in the next game, but maybe it's not something they're going to capitalize on this season, obviously.
Yeah. But it was funny with Hyman. We'll talk more about this next week. I don't want to get too involved, but his one comment from today in the exit interviews.
Yeah.
He was like, I didn't actually see it. I was just reading it on Twitter or whatever, but he was like, we get the fans, like how they're feeling. He goes, I was a fan too myself, which is true, right? Like him and Mitch, like they're Toronto got like they're Leaf fans, or they grew up Leaf fans. And he goes, it sucks. He goes, right? He goes, we don't want it to suck like this. He's like, right, like
yeah, I know. I read
for
that.
The future.
I thought that was awesome.
I thought that was good sort of thing, right? And that's why I don't understand this whole thing about Marner as well. But again, we won't get into that. We'll talk more about that next week and I'm sure our listeners will be listening next week too to look forward to it. I just thought the momentum from that game 4, I thought they would translate it to game 5.
Yeah.
Then in game 5, what does Keefe do? I don't know. For me, it was a mistake, I think, personally, sort of thing. You might not agree, but I think it was a mistake. He mixed up the lines totally. Okay, so he went with his all-star line game for the whole game. So he had JT Matthews, just again to repeat, I guess they had Tavares, Matthews, and Marner all in one line for the entire game. He put in Janssen into the lineup, which basically he hasn't played since February.
That was the thing that I think was a mistake.
Yeah, and he was a non-factor, basically. I don't even know how many minutes he played.
And he was gassed most of the time. Like I don't understand. Like I considering that Robertson, for whatever mistakes or things that he would have done, he was never a massive liability, not such a big liability that you want to take him out. But the thing that you took out of the lineup by taking him out was his energy. That guy back-checked like you would not believe. Every time he may have gotten thrown off of his man or whatever, but he was in there. So he was mixing it up on both ends, and he might have made mistakes because young players are going to make mistakes. But I don't think he was a huge liability. But you took out his energy as well.
Yeah, and I know that, like Janssen, basically, obviously, he would have like had the conversation with the coach to say, "Are you ready?" I mean, the player's never going to say he's not ready, but it's really not.
No, and even Willie said that today, as well too.
The
that
same thing.
Told him that he could do it.
He could play center in the case of Nylander, that he told him he could do it in. But with Janssen, it's a little bit different, being from coming back from injury. And I mean, he's not going to say he can't get in there. No, I know that there's the experience.
Well, and they have their
factor.
history.
Yes, exactly.
And they have their history from the Calder Cup, and I think there's a bit of, I guess, loyalty there. Giving him a shot and giving a person who's more experienced that time, because I mean, you, like they say, coach is going to err on the slightly more veteran player, and a player shouldn't lose their spot because of injury. So if he was deemed ready to go, technically, they are going to insert him.
Yeah, so. I just don't get, like, going back to game 2, like that's the game basically that they were kind of, I think they played that line a little bit, but not that much, the all-star line.
Yeah.
But they had like a full complete game. They won that game. So why would you like totally mix up everybody else for an elimination game? I just didn't get that.
The only thing I can think of is that he knows something about the makeup of our players, something about the energy of our players, something about the headspace of our players that we are not party to. So I think that he loaded up on those guys because he must have thought, these are the guys that are going right now, and I need to do something to spark the team. And maybe he thought that he could hopefully get that momentum, because I honestly think that he wouldn't have made these choices. And yes, it was a gamble, but I don't think he would have made these choices if he didn't feel like he kind of needed to do it. So there must be something that he knows about however everyone was that game going into it, that that we didn't really know. And of course, like he did kind of switch gears later on again to kind of put people back to where they were because it wasn't working. But
by that point it was too late, really. And
the fourth line wasn't as effective that game either as it was the previous game too. So
right, yeah, and you can only ask so much for the fourth line too, right? And I mean, to get 0 goals twice in this series, like they lost the first game, I think it was 3-0 as well, and now they lost game 5, 3-0. Like it's it's mind-boggling with the talent you have as to how you can get shut out. I know, yes, gives Columbus credit, blah, blah, blah. And their 2 goalies played great for the series, but still, when we have that much firepower, like they should have at least got 1 by him in the game. Yeah. But anyhow, I basically, once it was over, I mean, you could kind of see during the game, they obviously didn't build off of that experience from game 4 to 5. So then I took to Twitter, of course, and I have a couple of quotes I was we talked about before we got on the show here, and anyhow, I wanted to share a couple of them. So one of them was by Nabil Karim, who some of our listeners might know from the he used to be on TSN. I think he's down south somewhere now on ESPN or something like that. Anyways, he did a quote. He said, "Maybe 2020 isn't so bizarre after all. #Leafs." And so that was kind of funny. The other one was, "Stupid crowdless playoffs don't count anyway. * cup," sort of thing, which is true. If we actually were to win the cup, I actually think that everybody would just say it's an asterisk anyways, like an asterisk cup, but only for the Leafs, of course, right? Only if we
it counts for everybody else, though. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And then the other one, I guess just a couple more here. One of them said, I guess they tagged Kadri. They put @43 Kadri, go get your cup. And I'm sure some of us Leafs Nation will be cheering for Naz and JVR there.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like I'm cheering for all of our previous Leafs to do something
to get their first Stanley Cup.
I think Naz has the best shot. Although I don't know, Philadelphia is looking pretty damn good.
Yeah,
so JVR could get it too. But anyways, that would be an interesting showdown actually. Naz versus JVR. I'd like to see that.
Yeah,
that would be pretty good.
Yeah,
that could happen. Colorado, Philly.
Yeah, no,
that would be pretty interesting.
Yeah. And the last one I have here is somebody, I guess, tweeted, "We are going to win the draft lottery tomorrow and forget about all this." So,
well, as we know, that did not happen. Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, it wasn't.
So each team that got bounced had a 12.5% chance to get the first overall pick, which is, I guess, supposed to be Alexis Lafreniere. I don't know. Like, I know that he's the consensus pick, but I hate that we already know that. So that kind of bugs me a little bit with the system. But anyways, that's a subject for another day. New York Rangers ended up getting the pick. I actually thought that is the way it should kind of go. But do you think it was kind of fixed because the guy dropped the New York ball a little bit soon?
Yes.
And then, oops, he picked it up and it ended up being that one. I'm like,
yeah,
I wonder.
Yeah.
Conspiracy theory.
I don't know. It was kind of odd. I don't know. I mean, when I saw Dubas's face on because all the managers were on the Zoom thing or whatever, I was just like, oh my God. He did not want to be there. And, and I think it was like everybody is saying for the league in general to have this happen where it ended up being one of these teams, from the qualifying round that got knocked out rather than the team that actually needs it, the Detroit Red Wings.
I know. It is crazy.
Like that. Yeah, it's kind of shitty that way sort of thing. But as long as Edmonton didn't get it mainly, since they've had like the four first round draft picks.
It won't make a difference for them anyways.
No, exactly.
So they haven't been able to do anything with the ones that they've like. I mean, this is the thing. Like, we have to put it in perspective. Like, look at the people that are not moving on. Okay.
Yeah.
Sidney Crosby is not moving on. Connor McDavid is not moving on. Austin Matthews, John Tavares, Mitch Marner are not moving on. Like, there's a lot of really excellent players that are not going to be part of the playoffs this year. So
yeah,
it's just weird. And you could argue that if it was a 7-game matchup, maybe we come out on top of that. Other part of it too is that it was a razor thin difference, and it was very, very odd. And one thing that we didn't really talk about is Tortorella's coaching. Like, the games that were supposedly our home games, somehow he managed to get the drop on the matchups that he wanted, and it was like a game of Red Rover in those games. Like, he managed to somehow work the system for his benefit. So you have to give him credit for that, because that's one thing I think that if anybody's going to learn from this, Sheldon Keefe is going to learn something about coaching.
Yeah.
So it's not just the players that need to learn stuff. It's also him. This is like his first time coaching in the big show, in a bizarre half season. And there's learning to be done for him too.
That's fine. Like, I'm good with that. But I also think it's like, why does it always have to be that our coach and our GM, or not always, but in this case it is, like, they're learning. It's like, we don't have time to learn. We've been waiting 52 years for a Stanley Cup. And I'm like,
except that we had 2 people right before these guys who had all the experience in the world and couldn't bring it home either. So either way, what are you going to do?
Though, I mean, we'll probably talk about this a little bit next week, maybe, but I still think, and we said this before, we thought that Lamoriello, the previous GM, should have been the guy to sign these our top 3 young guys when they were finished their entry-level contract, being Marleau, Matthews, and Nylander. He should have been kept for at least that, if it were possible, sort of thing. I don't know. I forget about the timing wise but I just think it would have been better and I think we agreed to it at that time, but even if we didn't, that's what I think. But anyways, that's in the past now. And
so we're getting a little amped up now. So I would like to take a moment to have Leafs Nation and our listeners just kind of close their eyes for a moment and just relax.
All right, I'm closing my eyes too.
Okay, so just to think about what could have been and how we would really like, us as a winning team to, win the cup. And this is not the year that we want to do it, folks. This is a very strange year with no fans in the stands. I think we could all agree that we want to be there to enjoy this with all of Leafs Nation. We want to be in our, our man caves or family rooms with friends, enjoying the games together.
We want to be down at Real
Yes,
Sports.
we want to be at the bar.
Or at
we
Maple
want to
Leaf
be
Square.
arm in arm, hugging people and all of that. And if we were to make it all the way, we want, what the Raptors had last year. We remember, Christine, you went to that parade. What did you say? What did you say when you were at the parade?
Well, I was getting myself prepped there, basically, for that. And actually, I couldn't believe that I could actually stay there for that long and wait. But it was like, for the amount of people there, like, I don't know, a lot of people said that for the Leafs, that because it's a different world today and different demographics for sports in Toronto, but they said that we wouldn't get that many Leaf fans as we did on that day for the Raptors. And I was like, yeah, sure. I said, but it's not about a competition about that anyways. But I just remember that seeing all that crowd, and I just thought to myself, like, wow, like what would it be like? Like, this is somewhat what it would be like, but it would be just at another level.
Yes. So,
in my opinion.
So really, Leaf fans and our loyal listeners, this is not the way it's supposed to go down for us this year. I know this hurts because it hurts every year, and is not a fun way to go down. But this is not the way it's supposed to happen. So when it does, we're going to all be able to enjoy it together, and we're going to celebrate like we've never celebrated before.
Well, that's for sure.
So, yeah. So anyway, as always, we want to thank our listeners, and we want to remind you about our anniversary contest, and remind you that we're going to keep putting it out on Instagram for you guys to follow us on all the social media channels. And to enter the contest, all you need to do is follow us on Instagram, like our post, and tag 2 of your friends, and that will give you an entry. And we're going to be giving away a $50 e-gift card on our anniversary episode, which will drop in September.
Yeah. And our handle, just to make sure you guys know out there, it's at LTL1917.
Yeah. So that's all we got for you this time. Join us on our next podcast when we do our season in review. That's all, folks.
See ya.